Welcome back to Sacred Health with Carolyn. I'm Carolyn, and today I'm going to be talking about self-awareness with food and emotions. The reason why I'm talking about this is because it is super relevant in my life right now. Because I'm struggling with this. I'm struggling. Okay. Um, and I think, well, I'm not, I think, I know it's common in society, especially in the United States, with the way the food system is. And that's a whole other conversation that I could get into with the food supply and quality of food here in the States and how it's marketed to people. But I know I'm not the only one that struggles with food, with eating, with patterns of eating, with cravings, etc. So I just wanted to speak on this a little bit because, like I said, it's very relevant right now, and I just feel the need to share my experience and hopefully you feel supported and understood if you're going through something similar, or you could just, learn a little bit maybe. So I have struggled with emotional eating. Okay, first of all, I mean, this may bring up some triggering topics. If you have struggled with disordered eating or anything, or just weight issues, body image issues, just things like that, just be mindful if you're not in a place to hear stuff like this. Maybe skip, wait until you feel ready to handle it from a place of love and open-mindedness and safety. Okay. Okay. So yeah, I've struggled with emotional eating my whole life. I have generally been in I say decent shape. I'm saying this with quotations, like I've never necessarily really had like weight issues growing up. I am half Filipino. So like typically our frame, at least like for my actual family, like my mom and stuff, we're very petite, short, skinny, not really curvy, kind of like straight body type, you know what I'm saying? Um, and that was, and I'm definitely more of like, I have my mom's stature and things compared to my dad. My dad's wide and like over 6 feet tall and stuff. Like I'm not, I feel like I have more of the Asian side than his side. So yeah, as far as like my upbringing, my body structure, and like my childhood and things, like I was still very, skinny, slender, um, not a lot of fat, like, you know what I mean? Like just very bony, especially as like a young kid, Um, and then, puberty came along and things like I did fill out a little bit, but like overall was still pretty skinny generally. And into high school, still skinny. At the time, I definitely had dysmorphia. I was very insecure, very self-conscious, uncomfortable. I had some disordered eating, in my late teen years, but if I look back now, I'm like, okay, I was still like in pretty good shape. Not necessarily healthy. Like I did exercise and things. So, but I wasn't like actively taking care of myself, if that makes sense. Because there's a difference. You can look a certain way but not take care of yourself. So like that's what I mean. My stature was tiny, but like I did not have good habits. I was not like, yeah, I did, like I was active in some ways, but like not intentionally as from like a health perspective. It was more so just to like do stuff. And I did weightlifting in high school, but like I wasn't super serious about it, and I did track, but like that was just something to do, to hang out with my friends. It wasn't like I wasn't coming at it from that like I'm trying to be healthy point of view. I hope that makes sense. Okay. Um, so yeah, emotional eating, disordered dysmorphia, especially like I said in my late teens growing up. So like I said, I'm half Filipino, so I have like the standard American diet, like the sad diet. That's what I call it now. So like, especially I was my childhood years were like the 2000s, the early 2000s, late 90s were like my elementary school years. Um, and then middle school was like mid 2000s, right? So um back then, like this is taking me back if I think of this, like Lunchables, like Captain Crunch, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Toaster Strudels, Pop-Tarts, Doritos, like all the chips, the freaking, what are those called? Dunkaroos, which now they came back with those. I used to love those. Gushers, like the Scooby-Doo fruit snacks with like the colors, fruit roll-ups, like all that junk food, like typical like junk food, all that stuff. I used to eat that all the time. Like kid cuisines, the banquet frozen meals, like stuff like that, frozen pizzas and like stuff like that. Okay. Lots of processed boxed foods a lot of the time. And then like I had my mom's side of like she would make all her food for me and for her, but I was definitely less picky about it. So I would eat a lot of what she made. And I'm thankful that I'm gonna say one other thing that just popped to mind. Um, my mom did not like buying soda. She did not like we rarely ever got soda and even juice. Like I don't remember even buying that very frequently. Um, we were very much like a water home. And like we got milk and stuff, but as far as like flavored drinks, definitely not we did not really like partake in that. So I'm super thankful that I my mom was very adamant about that because even though I ate a lot of processed junk foods growing up, that is one thing that stuck with me ever since I was a kid. I mean, and of course, as a kid and like a teen, I would get soda when I was like with friends or whatever, but I don't like soda. I even back like if I think back to those years when I would like get them, if I was out with friends or like at an event, like yeah, I would have some, but like I didn't like it. It was not my preference. So I'm super thankful that my mom instilled that in me to like just drink water. And while I struggle with drinking enough water as an adult, I am thankful that I have the preference and like I'd rather just have water than soda or juice or anything like that. So yes, mom, I'm thankful for that. And yeah, also I'm thankful that she exposed me to a lot of the Filipino foods. And I'm thankful that I was not picky and I just tried it anyway because that did expand my palate. For someone who ate so much junk, I did eat a lot of like quote unquote weird things, like things that typical Americans would not eat, combinations of flavors, types of foods. And I grew up where I'm from, like it's a military area, so like there were other Filipinos there, other kids, so like we would all know each other and hang out together, and so like it was commonplace among us as we understood, like it was like typically the moms were from the Philippines and raised us, so we were all exposed to that type of thing. But as far as like the other kids probably were so confused. I remember so there's this stuff called ubi in the Philippines. It's basically like a sweet potato. It's like a purple, also, like people call it taro too, but it's like a purple, like a yam, kind of like that, a yam, like a sweet potato, and it's purple, and they make ice cream with it. And I remember I showed my one friend that, like an American friend, like she was not familiar with this, and she was just like, "What the hell?" She was so like, it's just funny how to me that seems so normal. Like, yeah, we have like purple ice cream in the fridge or in the freezer. It wasn't weird, but just like to somebody who is not familiar with that, she just thought it was so funny and just so odd. If you've not had ubi, anything ubi flavored, like try it. Don't let the color throw you off. It's so good. It's so good. Um, so anyway, I guess the point I'm getting at is like I did not have a background growing up, even into my early adulthood, about nutrition, about health, like in the especially like in high school where it's like you have health class, right? That was a joke. As far as like learning about nutrition and health, like yeah, there's some things in health class that were useful and helpful, obviously, but like as far as nutrition goes, we did not really have a nutrition like deep dive situation where I grew up. It was very basic. It was like the food pyramid. And if you remember the food pyramid, not the plate, now it's a plate, it's a pyramid. So the bottom was like you eat mo the most of these things was all like grains and carbohydrates. Um, and then legumes, beans. Now I can't remember. I think it's fruits and vegetables, and then legumes and meats. Yeah, and then dairy, and then sugar. I probably should have freaking looked this up before I start talking because it's just so funny now if I like it's been so long. Okay, y'all. Okay, let's revamp here. Okay, let me restart this. The food pyramid. Okay, this is the old school food pyramid. The bottom, yes, breads, cereal, rice, grains. Okay, carbs. The second layer, vegetables and fruits. Okay, the third layer is dairy, so milk, yogurt, cheese on one side, poultry, meat, fish, beans, nuts, eggs on the other side. So just like proteins. I'm doing this on the camera. Proteins on one side, dairy on the other side, and then the top is fats, oils, and sweets. Okay, so I was close, not quite, but close enough. Okay, so that was the food pyramid, and that was like all that we learned about eating. Okay, back then, like I knew a calorie was like a unit of energy. But I knew like so like the basic definition of a calorie, but like I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know how that translated into like what does that mean for your body? Like when you eat them, like you know what I'm saying? Like there was just no like there was no way for me to understand like how this information translates into like practical life, okay? Um, I remember in middle school, this was so brief too because our coach, the teacher, she was like worried that it was gonna upset because we're in eighth grade, right? She was worried it was gonna be upsetting to some girls to learn about BMI because that means you're fat, right? Like I'm not saying that's like how it was taken for us, okay? And not that like yes, a BMI can be useful information. Like now as an adult, I'm realizing that can give you a marker of like your health. That is a measuring point. That does not define anything. We didn't learn about body composition. We didn't learn about how fat sits on different people's body types, where the fat is at, what what if a freaking I mean, this is not just for teens, but for women. For me, okay, okay. I am like 5'3", right? I'm about 115 pounds. I'm like, okay, no curves, like no butt, no boobs, no like I'm just very like straight up and down. Like I don't really have a lot. Okay, someone can be 115. They're probably gonna be more though if they have boobs and a butt and like more fat held. But just for example, like my type, even let's say even if I was 125, okay, and then somebody else at 125, if they had, C cups and more hips than me and more, you know what I mean? Like we could be the same weight, but our body structures would look so different because that's just fucking part of life. Okay, that's how it works. Same with someone could be 125 or even one, and be super muscular. Or okay, here's another thing. There's those pictures online of like all these women, they're all the same weight, but they all look different because they have different body types. Muscle weighs more than fat, so you can be a bigger, or excuse me, a higher weight on the scale of a totally different body composition because you have more muscle. Like there's so many different ways this could pan out for people. And like, you know what I'm saying? But like as a middle schooler, as an eighth grader, like that was not explained at all. And so I look back on that And even in high school, that wasn't explained to me. So it's like, what the fuck were these people thinking? Like, were they just that uninformed educators that didn't think like that? Did that just not come up to think like, oh, maybe we should go into detail here? And I don't know. I, there's a lot in the health space that has kind of come up in the past 10 years as far as learning about health and body types and body, different ways of eating and how different foods affect your body. There's more studies done, there's all these things. So I know a lot has changed since I was in high school, since I was in middle school, but it's just crazy to look back on and see how much was lacking. I guess that's where that's the point I'm trying to make. It was just really lacking. So leading up now into my adulthood, I had to kind of learn what I know myself by researching, by trial and error, by just being interested or um like forcing myself to change.
A few moments later.
Okay, so basically what I was saying was that I I did not have a good history, a good background of overall health nutrition, and so this led to me not being aware of how different foods affected me. Like, literally, for the longest time, I did not even recognize that there was a connection between food and physical. Okay, I'm going to say this and it's going to come out wrong. Like, between food and physical issues. Okay, mental issues, like those types of things. Not like, yes, I knew that food could lead to weight issues, but I did not have the reference or the connection, the understanding to realize that food affects your body more than just weight. Like it affects your mental health, it affects like how your body functions, and you have food intolerances and allergies, and even if you don't have quote unquote intolerances that are verified with a test, your body can still not agree with things. And if you continue to consume those things, that can your, affect you. It can affect your moods. It can affect your hormones. It can affect, um, if you have inflammation, like, do you know what I mean? And like, that sounds so common sense as I say it now, but I just didn't understand that for the longest time until I got into my, you know, mid 20s, my early mid 20s. I've had kids at that point, you know what I mean? Like there were other things that kind of led me down a more holistic path. Um, but it's weird to think that I literally did not have the comprehension, the I couldn't wrap my head around the fact that like nutrition and food affects you in so many different ways aside from just gaining or losing weight. And that's wild. That like not just me, but other people also don't understand that even now. Especially as even more things are more public as far as like studies and research goes. Some people just still are just not informed. And so I hope this kind of gives you a reason to look into it, to think on it, and just inform yourself and look inward and figure it out for yourself. So let me kind of explain this a little bit more. So, for example, for me personally, when I eat a lot of processed carbohydrates, like high carbohydrate foods, this is not like fruits and vegetables carbs. This is like pizza, a bunch of crackers, a bunch of breads, and not like, you know, fermented grains or like Dave's Killer Bread, like, yeah, a lot of that can mess with me, but I'm talking about just like junky carbs. And even actually, let me backtrack. It gets worse with processed carbs, but even if I eat a lot of like more cleaner carbohydrates, like cleaner grains and things, this it still builds up in the same way. It's just it tastes longer. But definitely like, the pizzas, the junk foods, the, takeout, like Chinese food, like that type of thing, where it's just like a bunch of rice and a bunch of noodles and like all that stuff, like that's my main issue. So when I eat a lot of that, um, I have a tendency to uh I'm just like a lunatic. I'm like so like cranky, irritable, very prone to being snappy, very strong mood swings. Like the way I'm thinking is not like rational. It's not from a place of like calm, looking at things from like with an open mind, with like a like a I'm saying from both perspectives. It's very much like I have my blinders on. I'm in my feelings so much that like I cannot snap out of it. I cannot look outward from like what I'm feeling and what is happening to regulate myself and like chill the fuck out. Okay, so I'm just like so cranky and irritable and like and that's not it's not cute. It's not okay, okay? It's not it's just not. And I think of it too like when I was a teen, I definitely like this side of me was real. And I know when you're a teenager, you have like, all the things, hormones, and you're arguing with your parents. But for me, it was just like so strong. And while it came out in different ways, like compared to now, like it definitely was still really strong and really overwhelming. It was like an overwhelming sense of being so mad that I couldn't control it. I couldn't help it and I couldn't stop it. And I felt very misunderstood and just mad. Okay. And and that still happens now as an adult. And it took me years to come to this conclusion that it was related to the food. I've tried all different kinds of eating ways, like we've eaten the standard American diet, we've eaten vegan, we've eaten vegetarian, pescatarian, with dairy, without dairy, gluten free. I tried that. Um, yeah, we've tried all over the past like 4 years or so. We've tried a whole bunch of different things. And, it took a lot of trial and error. It took a lot of conversations with, my husband, who is the one living with me, obviously. Like we had to kind of narrow things down because this would come up over the years and we'd be like, what is causing this? Like, is it my hormones being messed up? Which I do think that is part of it. Like my hormones do need to be a little bit more regulated than they are now, but aside from that, this was the most common ground type of thing we could think of was the carbs, like processed carbs causing these mood swings. And I guess this just translates into me having a sugar addiction. Like, and you might be confused because you might be like, okay, well, you just said it's when you eat carbs, you're not talking about eating sweets, but that's the thing. It's the same, like your body handles it the same. Like it will, okay. When you eat carbohydrates, your body, it's like your body handles it the same way it would handle glucose. Which is why they say like if you're in the fitness world or like trying to work out, um, they say like when you eat carbs to get fuel for your muscles, it converts into glycogen, um, which is different. This is a whole other conversation, but different than when you eat fats and your body uses ketones for energy instead of glycogen. Um, okay, so anyway, that's a whole other thing. But basically, my body is craving that the sugars. Okay, so if you think, oh my gosh, I can't talk. If you crave a lot of carby things, you may also find that your body responds similarly when you eat sweet things, even if you're not like, it's not satisfying you in the same way of like flavor profile, but it's easy to have sugar cravings and it's easy to have carb cravings because your body, how your body's handling it. Um, Digesting it, all those things, how it affects your blood sugar. And this is a whole other thing. I did not even have knowledge of like what blood sugar was, what types of foods, like how they affect your blood sugar. So like the carbs and the sugars, they go straight to your bloodstream super quickly. Your body digests them very fast, and then your blood sugar goes up, and then you have a crash, right? I just never like, I shouldn't say never, but for a very long time, I did not have the knowledge to even understand like that's what happens when you eat certain things. And also, this is what's happening to my body when I feel like this. So when I noticed I would feel like a rush and then a crash, it's because I ate something that made my blood sugar spike. And for the longest time, like I just didn't have the verbiage or the understanding to like connect that that's what that meant. That that's what that feeling was. So, what has helped me is definitely prioritizing protein, reducing the processed carbohydrates, even replacing the carbs, doing like whole oats. And also if you have an instant pot, cooking the oats like that, that's really good. It's a lot easier in your gut to pressure cook the oats or the rice or the quinoa or whatever you choose to eat. Um, but definitely trying to reduce the processed carbs, replacing it, whole oats, quinoa, quinoa and beans together, create a complete protein. So while um, it's so carby in nature, it's definitely better to have like quinoa and beans together than to just have like, you know, a bunch of bread or something like that. Just learning what works for you. And I guess the point of this, me sharing what is my experience, is that it's important to have awareness of what foods affect you, in what ways, and how they affect you. Everyone's different. What affects me a certain way. My husband, it affects him in a different way, or my kids, or, whoever you, and my mom, whoever it is, like people handle things differently. And, you'll hear on the internet all different ways of eating, people's diet books, lifestyle eating books. People will say, these types of foods, this is the way to eat, or like avoid these foods because these are horrible. And like, while I think it's important to see food as these are all options of things you can eat, some are more nutrient dense and some are not. There's a lot of shame around food and guilt, and I think that leads to a lot of disordered eating or eating disorders. And that's something, people, not just like people in general, should really dig deep and figure out what are their viewpoints with that. Something I'm hearing a lot lately is that there's no morals to food. Food's not good or bad, it's just food. And I think that is true. But I think also to expand upon that, be aware of which foods are more nutrient dense and which are not, and be aware of which foods nourish you and which foods do not. Like, there's foods out there that have a lot of nutrients, but they can not agree with you. You know what I mean? So it doesn't mean that they're bad. It just means for you, it's not a good fit. It doesn't mean there's not nutrients to it. It doesn't mean it's not a health food, a superfood. It just means that for you, you should pick something different for you to be as nourished as possible. Um, I hope that is an insightful way to look at food because I know for me, that's something I have had to learn over the years and to even remind myself now that when I find myself feeling, you know, shame around food, I find myself eating emotionally and like now eating carbs that I know are not benefiting me, but like I'm just in this like it's here. So I just want to eat it. And especially like before my period, I'm so like snacky and it's like the cravings are so strong that I have a really hard time sometimes with overcoming them and with being smarter than my cravings, like I know I shouldn't eat that because it can lead to mood swings or it can lead to digestive upset or whatever it is, but like I know with my logical brain that that's the case, but like sometimes the craving is so strong that I just don't give a fuck. Do you know what I'm saying? And I think that is commonplace for a lot of people um who struggle with this type of thing. It is common. It doesn't mean it's good. Um, but it you're not alone if that's something you're dealing with, you know? Um, I'm literally I'm doing school for like nutrition coaching, integrative nutrition health coach, and I'm still struggling with food um cravings. And I mean, I think that is part of being human. You are gonna have your problems, your struggles, your cravings. You're going to learn about what foods work for you, what foods don't. You're going to learn about what patterns and behaviors work for you and which ones don't. And I'm just being real that while I want to help people be healthy and feel healthy, and I personally want to feel healthy, I still have things to improve upon. I still have things to work through and figure out and to build consistency and build habits with for this instance, choosing foods that nourish me and not just with their nutrient content, but with how they make me feel mentally, how they how they nourish my mind, my spirit. There's way more to it. So, so action step, okay? Let's gain awareness. Let's empower yourself to gain awareness, to write down what you eat. Okay, this is not about tracking macros. That's a whole other combo. That's a whole other aspect to health and nutrition. That's just a whole other thing. And while that can be helpful for people, like that's not what I'm talking about right now. I'm talking about just being aware of what you eat and how it affects you. So I'm putting this out there. I'm going to make a PDF file, a downloadable free PDF. Okay, it's gonna be like a food log, a food journal. So for 7 days, it'll be Sunday to Saturday. This is just like a food log. Okay, what did you eat? Breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack? What did you drink? How did you feel while eating it? How do you feel after eating it? And then at the end of the day, just recap your thoughts on like just in general how what you ate or like how you felt, or just anything you feel is relevant as a recap, like at the end of the day regarding this topic, okay? And then, yeah, for 7 days, and just see how you feel about it. Like, see at the end of the 7 days, see what you figure out, see if you learn anything. You might see, hey, I didn't drink enough water, or hey, I don't even drink water like I throughout my day, or hey, I snack and like I don't actually eat a nourishing meal later on in the day like I should. Or you might notice, hey, I just eat a lot of, I don't know, maybe eat like chips and crackers and like carby things, and you're like, you realize, oh, I don't have a balance of protein and fat in here. Or, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what you're going to learn, but you'll probably learn something. You'll probably gain some knowledge and just find awareness and realize, okay, now that you see after 7 days of what you eat, and you kind of even recap too how you felt throughout the week, then you might, looking forward after that week, realize, okay, I want to look into maybe eating a certain way to remedy some of these things I noticed, or maybe taking things out that you realize, oh, this made me feel like crap. Like a lot of these times I eat this. Or maybe you might come to a conclusion that you might need a food intolerance test, or just something like that. So anyway, I'm going to make that. And obviously, I'm recording this ahead of time. So by the time this is live, that PDF will be ready and available on, I will link it in the show notes and in the YouTube description, and also on my Instagram link in bio, my link tree. I will link it there and have it available for download. Like I said, it'll be free and you can just download it, print it out. Um, I mean, you can type, it'll be a PDF, so you can type in it if you want, but I think for me personally, I prefer the pen and paper thing. So yeah, do it however you want, but just use that as a resource to gain some awareness about yourself and how food affects you, and how you can empower yourself to make choices that serve you more in the future. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope you resonated with some of this. And, like I said, if you are struggling with food cravings, with food awareness, with eating patterns, with disordered eating, or anything like that, just know you're not alone. There are support. And if you think you have, an eating disorder, or you have something more serious than just dealing with cravings, sometimes definitely get help, talk to your physician, talk to a therapist, and get the specialized help you deserve, and that you need to overcome this thing. Okay? Okay. See you next time, guys.